Getting stronger.
These are janitors in Minneapolis at a meeting where they are voting on whether to accept their union contract. A union is a group of workers who come together to have a voice at work. A union contract is a written agreement negotiated by union members with their employer. Among other things, the contract includes how much the workers will be paid, if they will receive employer-paid health insurance, how many vacation and sick days they have, and what the employer will do to protect them from getting hurt on the job. Janitors and other workers today are able to belong to a union and to negotiate with their employers because people before them fought to establish that right. In 1934, thousands of truck drivers in Minneapolis staged a series of strikes that helped to establish the right to form a union. A strike happens when workers decide to stop working to protest conditions they consider unfair. The truck drivers in Minneapolis belonged to the Teamsters Union and were calling attention to their low pay and poor treatment on the job. Most importantly, they were raising awareness about the need for unions.
The impact of it was that the employers were not going to be the masters of the workplace. And that was really what it was all about.
In 1929, just a few years before the Teamsters strike, Minneapolis is a sharply divided city. On one side are the employers, with their fine homes overlooking the western lakes. On the other, an almost totally non-unionized workforce, whose wages are among the lowest in the nation. To prevent unionization, the employers bank on their membership in the Citizens Alliance, an organization created to keep the workers from coming together. The Citizens Alliance includes the executives of the city's largest companies. Since the end of World War I, the Citizens Alliance has enjoyed almost total power. While workers in many parts of the country saw their pay go up by as much as 11% during the 1920s, the power of the Citizens Alliance limited pay raises for Minneapolis workers to 2% or less.
Buddy, can you spare a dime?
In 1930, the U.S. economy drops dead in its tracks, shakes with sudden convulsions, and rattles slowly backwards. Banks close their doors, and businesses collapse. The Great Depression has hit. A vast army of hollow-faced people without work or hope of income roam the streets, sleep on benches, and beg for bread. In 1933, Congress passes an economic planning measure, the National Recovery Act. Though limited in scope, it encourages public confidence. At least someone is doing something. Business conditions improve, unemployment declines modestly, but wages fail to keep pace with rising prices, and in Minneapolis, workers have scarcely benefited.
And there were a lot of men trying to raise families on $15 a week, and some even less. Conditions were terrible.
The workers in the Minneapolis coal yards joined together with truck drivers to form Local 574 of the Teamsters Union. In those days, many people heated their homes with coal-burning stoves. On 2 very cold days in February 1934, workers shut down almost every coal yard in the city. The employers give in to their demands, and the workers begin to formulate even more ambitious plans. As the Depression deepens, more and more workers join unions. But 30,000 people in Minneapolis don't have jobs. They can't get unemployment benefits or other aid because this was before those government programs were created. Their attempts to organize have been met by police clubs. Hungry for work, they could be hired to replace workers who are on strike. The leaders of Local 574 know this and reach out to these workers, inviting them to form their own section of the union. Encouraged by the solidarity exhibited by the truckers, the unemployed workers sign up to serve as pickets instead of strikebreakers. The Teamsters in Minneapolis are inspired by the courage of workers in other cities who are also standing up for fairness and the right to join unions. In Toledo, Ohio, thousands of workers at an auto parts factory, half of them women, go out on strike with the full support of unemployed people in their community. In San Francisco, people fill the streets, and shipping is stopped at every port on the West Coast when longshoremen go on strike to have a voice in the workplace. By mid-May, with their plans carefully mapped out, the now 6,000 members of Local 574 in Minneapolis vote to shut down the city. They demand better wages and union recognition. They also tell the employers that the union must include not only drivers, but all of the men and women working at the warehouses. The union uses a brilliant but risky tactic called the cruising picket line. Carloads of strikers cruise the downtown area looking for trucks that might be trying to move cargo in violation of the strike. When they spot one, the picketers stand in front of the truck with their signs. The tactic works well, and for several days, the truck traffic is nearly halted. This kind of operation requires a lot of support. Women work 12-hour shifts to feed thousands of strikers. Sympathetic small business people provide food for the strike kitchen.
Some of the milk companies sent in milk and gave us tickets so pickets could take milk home for their children.
Secretaries who support the strike listen in on their employers and give the union information regarding anti-strike plans. The workers are winning, but the employers have not given up.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
On May 21, 1934, strikers, police, and special deputies hired by the Citizens Alliance confront each other in hand-to-hand combat in the city's Central Market District. The conflict spills over into the next day when a local radio station broadcasts live from the site.
And the cops showed us how to swing clubs, and then the day before, and we learned fast, we beat them back, and so they shut the gates finally.
Police and Citizens Alliance deputies flee the clubs of the pickets who soon control the streets. Injured police, deputies, and strikers lie bleeding on the cobblestones. 2 Citizens Alliance deputies die from the blows they receive, one of them a prominent Minneapolis businessman. Desperate to put an end to the violence, Governor Floyd B. Olson urges the union and the Citizens Alliance to meet. After 3 days, an agreement is reached. The strikers will be reinstated to their jobs, and the employers agree to grant union recognition to a broad range of workers in the trucking industry. But the battle for Minneapolis, which now appears settled, has really only just begun. Soon, it becomes clear that the employers are not sticking to their side of the deal. The workers vote to strike again in mid-July. The union's newspaper, The Organizer, becomes the first daily paper ever published by a striking union. A strike committee of 100 is elected to represent the many different kinds of workers in the industry. They meet every morning and lay out their plans for the day. Many other unions come out in support of the strike. A special farmers market is set up so that small farmers can sell their food directly to the public, thus avoiding hardship from the strike.
We were fortunate to be in a state where there was an active farm holiday association. The farmers helped us tremendously, and they used to bring in food and supplies and milk in every way. And farmers that understand what it's all about realize that they're workers too, except they ain't got no 8 to 5 day. They start in the morning and they quit at night, and it's 7 days a week. But the farmers around the adjacent area to the Twin Cities were tremendous in their support and help in the 34 strike.
Pickets fan out from new headquarters in the heart of downtown. They keep the streets nearly free of truck movement. The mayor of Minneapolis urges Governor Olson to mobilize the National Guard in case of new outbreaks of violence. The Minneapolis police chief orders his forces to begin moving goods. On July 20th, Henry Ness is on picket duty for the union. He is riding on the back of a pickup with a dozen other strikers when a truck carrying merchandise pulls out from a warehouse near the market. The pickup in which Ness is riding moves quickly to intercept the truck. Standing by, a line of police are ready with their shotguns.
We heard the shooting. It was in the middle of the block. The truck would have tried to intercept the truck, I'm sure. That was the intent. But nobody got out of the truck, and the pictures will show police started to open fire on them. Harry and I and Ben Koski, and I remember Ben because we were all three injured, come out of that alley, and we ran into a policeman who was down on one knee, and he had a Sub-Thompson machine riot gun, and just as we come around the corner, he fired. And he knocked Harry DeBoer's leg. We didn't know how bad, but Harry fell down. Ben Koski's hand was right next to Harry's leg, and he pretty near severed it. And I got the balance of the charge, lacerations in the stomach area, and I got some cracked ribs out of it. I thought I was killed because I was bleeding, but it was just surface wounds, it turned out to be. We got Harry, got him up to the strike headquarters. We got Koski there, and everyone went to different hospitals.
It was bedlam when we got there. It was turmoil. These boys were shot in the back. They were moaning and groaning. The doctor was trying to get to all of them. The nurses were working. And we were flying around getting supplies for them, for those that were attending the sick. It was pretty bad that day. Very bad.
67 people are wounded by the bullets of the police. 2 of them, John Ballore and Henry Ness, die later from their wounds. Ness is 40 years old and the father of 4 children. A few days later, tens of thousands of strikers and sympathetic citizens line the streets for the funeral of Henry Ness.
It was a real sad day for the truckers and everybody, but it was really a large funeral, the largest one I ever saw in my life.
Then came a terrible period of not frustration, but anger among the ranks. And the leaders had a problem because they were real concerned that several of the guys would want to get even with that. That was cold-blooded murder, what they done.
The events of July 20th, Bloody Friday, galvanized public opinion to the side of the strikers. Protest rallies even attracted small business owners. Fearing further violence, Governor Olson orders the National Guard into Minneapolis. For several days, the Guardsmen control the city. Whatever Olson's motives, martial law works to weaken the strike. The Guardsmen are not effective at keeping the streets closed to traffic. 10 days later, 70% of normal truck traffic is moving. The union holds a street meeting challenging martial law. In response, Olson orders the Guard to union headquarters. More than 70 strikers are arrested. Feeling betrayed by a governor they thought sympathetic to their cause, hundreds of strikers roam the streets, turning over trucks and confronting Guardsmen. The union newspaper calls for a general strike. A group of strike leaders meet with Governor Olson demanding the release of their comrades who are still under arrest. Olson complies and orders the Guard to tighten up on truck traffic and to raid the Citizens Alliance headquarters. He hopes that the raid will convince the employers to settle on an agreement already supported by the union. The employers refuse. The National Guard then steps up activities against the strikers. Guardsmen arrest the cruising pickets and send them to a stockade set up at the state fairgrounds. The strike enters its 4th week, having become a battle of wills. By now, the trucking firms are hurting. Many are anxious to agree to a settlement, but pressure from the Citizens Alliance keeps the major companies from signing an agreement. That summer, President Franklin Roosevelt visits Rochester, Minnesota. Governor Olson hurries to meet with him. They spend hours discussing the crisis in Minneapolis. The banks in Minneapolis need money from the federal government to stay in business during the Depression. And President Roosevelt uses that leverage to put pressure on the employers. But in the end, it is the persistence solidarity, and strength of the strikers which proves too strong for the Citizens Alliance to resist. Eventually, the employers offer a compromise plan, but the strikers smell victory and reject it. On August 19, 1934, the Citizens Alliance agrees to nearly all the union's demands. The workers have won. The success of the truck strike leads to the rapid unionization of other Minneapolis industries and sparks labor organizing from Rhode Island to Washington State. Finally, in 1935, Congress takes notice and passes the National Labor Relations Act, which guarantees workers the right to bargain collectively through unions. The struggle in Minneapolis is a turning point for working people in the United States and marks the start of a new era of fairness and prosperity in American workplaces. Many decades later, on July 20th, 1980, the Minneapolis truck strike is memorialized for the first time at a city park. More than 100 living veterans of those tumultuous days are in attendance. They are awarded medallions commemorating their participation in the strike. Today, Minnesotans no longer heat their homes with coal, but like the workers of 1934, many still struggle to make ends meet. On this street, where there once were many warehouses, there are only a few monuments to remind passers-by that what happened here transformed the city and played a decisive role in the history of organized labor in the United States. One reminder is a collection of strike photos displayed at a light rail station in downtown Minneapolis. But for many who pass the light rail station, the full history of what happened here remains unknown. That on this street, over 50 unarmed men were shot by police, and 2 of them died. The bloodstains are gone from the pavement now, and in the minds of most people, it is just another street. But labor's struggle to maintain a decent quality of life, dignity, and social justice remains.
There's more in life than just going out and getting yourself a 50-cent an hour job or a $50 a week job, depending on the wages of the times. I said there's got to be something more to this, and we have to make the workers realize that through the organized strength of unions, they can achieve a better way of life.
Taking untold millions that they never worked to earn, but without a brain or muscle, not a single wheel could turn. Not a force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one. Solidarity forever, the union makes us strong. All working people, it's time to come together. Our union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. All working people, it's time to come together. Our union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. All working people, it's time to come together. Our union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. All working people, it's time to come together. Our union makes us strong. Solidarity forever.